Good evening and welcome to the ERL Gran Turismo tier Season 2 of our Elite Championship season preview. Just a quick video really for our drivers and everyone involved in the Gran Turismo tier, just to go through how we've got to where we are now and some of the changes that will be for the upcoming season. Sometimes a little bit easier to explain verbally than in a Discord server. So without further ado, I've got a couple of thank yous to do and just a quick review of how we got to where we are right now. This all started, obviously, myself, Chunky and the Dunn brothers. We were F1 league racers for many years. Getting a little bit tired of the game and a bit of familiarity. We had the idea of doing a charity race, a charity endurance race on Gran Turismo. None of us had really ever played the game before. But in preparation for a 24-hour race, decided we better start playing this game. And we all fell in love with it and decided that wouldn't it be great? There's a lot of league racing out there for Formula One, but not much in the way for Gran Turismo. So we had the idea of, within the existing ERL system that we're already in, put it to our owners, who was supportive as you could ever imagine they would be, and they allowed us to go live with our dream of trying to get a Gran Turismo tier up and running within the existing ERL structure. So that all started. We had the idea, we had 5 drivers, and then some excellent work from Chunky for our Facebook channel was able to recruit a batch of drivers. We knew nothing about them. It was a brand new community, mixed from all over the world, but everyone came together really well. We had a fantastic first season. And then from there, we've added to our drivers, we've added to our staff, primarily our 3 trial coordinators, Highfield, Lucky Egg and Has Nagel, who have just done an incredible job. Everyone I ever speak to can't speak highly enough of them in terms of the job they do. They recruit, they are the most flexible trial coordinators you could ever have. They're always testing settings for us so that we can give you the best possible racing experience. So yeah, massive thank you to them. From what we started, that they've picked up the ball, run with it and taken it on to another level. And we're just about to start our second season, now in a position where we have, I believe at the time of this, 23 drivers ready for season 2, along with 2 reserves, so 25 car grid. So yeah, we've come a long way. But without further ado, I think most of you want to know what format we'll be running. We had mentioned that we're going to be looking at some changes, and I know there's a big desire to go to 2 tiers. So it's something that we've considered, but our owners have made, I think, the very sensible decision that we probably need to make sure that we can walk before we can run. So 2 tiers will remain the aim for season 3, because we do have a bit of a spread. The field did close up last year, but we have got a bit of a front to back field spread, and we want to give competitive racing to everybody in the ERL Gran Turismo tier. But we're very wary of growing too quickly. So we have come up, we've worked really hard, we've been playing around at this. I know we previewed it to some of the guys, and there was a positive and a negative reception. At the end of the day, it's difficult to keep everybody happy. But this is the format we'll be going with. As I say, we've got capacity now for 25 drivers, and we're going to split and actually run 1 overall championship, but we are going to run 2 classes. So whilst there won't be 2 tiers, there will be 2 classes. Now, don't worry, everyone will be in a GT3 car, no one in a GT4. But we've categorised this using common endurance terminology as GT Pro and a GT category. We have placed, which you'll soon find out, 10 drivers into the GT Pro category, with the remaining 15, although we're just short of that at the moment, but 15 drivers into the GT category. Obviously, we may play around with those depending on any new entrants that come in, but for now, we have worked through that. The 10 drivers based off last year's championship, but also that was the original aim, to do all the placements off last year's championship, but we have had an influx of some drivers, a couple of which are of an exceptional pace, so they have to obviously go into that class of racing. So yes, we've got the 10 driver GT Pro, 15 driver GT category, so 25 drivers altogether. On any given race weekend, provided that say that all 10 GT Pro drivers are available to race, they will go straight into what we will call the feature race, The remaining 15 GT drivers will go into a sprint race. Now we have extended slightly. We're going to be in and around 35 minutes just to give those guys a slightly longer race. So depending on which track, you'll probably be looking somewhere. We've got a bit of flexibility in the timing, so somewhere in and around 35 to 40 minutes for that sprint race. So based off 10 GT pros being through, the top 5 GT drivers from that race would go into the feature race. But where we've made a change is, rather than the points only being scored in that feature race, everybody from the first in the GT Pro to the last in the GT race will score points. This makes it fairer and rewards people for turning up and racing. You should always get more points turning up and racing, in my opinion, than someone that can't race. You shouldn't. So that's what we've done. Now, the way the race will be classified will be effectively like there was 25 finishers. So think of it like your Formula One qualifying. To get into the top 15 as a GT driver, you've got to get in the top 5 of that sprint race. But from there, wherever you finish in that sprint race will then be your finishing position overall. So if you were to come 6th in that sprint, you would be 16th overall. 7th, you'd be 17th overall, and so on down to 15th, where you'd be 25. And we're going to run a point system that will run from points from 1st to 25. Obviously, on any races where we don't have a full GT Pro field, there'll be more spaces available for that feature race. So if we were to only have 9, that would then go to 6 of the GT field can go through to the main race. And obviously, if we had 8, it'd be 7, and so on. But this is what we hope it allows us to give everybody a bit of something for now until we have that full capacity to go to 2 tiers. We believe this is a happy medium, and I hope you as drivers like it. I know it's difficult for you to set your timings because you're going to need to set aside 1 hour for racing or 2 hours, but what we'd ask, and it's going to go in your rules of racing, that if you set aside that time to do both races, obviously if you make it through, fantastic. If you don't, I'd hope that you'd support and watch the stream of the main race anyway. So that's the format. We're not going to do separate points for the GT Pros, but the highest ranked GT Pro driver in the standings will obviously the highest ranked GT driver in the standings will take that championship. So we'll have an overall championship, GT Pro championship, and a GT champion. I mean, obviously you'd imagine that the overall GT Pro champion will be the same, but you never know. Someone from the GT category might surprise us. But yes, there will be a separate championship for the GT drivers to contend for, but it'll be all within 1 point system basically, and the highest ranked driver will take the championship. So on the format of broadcasting, I myself would like to reserve for the GT category. In the highly unlikely event that I make it through to the main race, I will do a stream of the replay straight afterwards. So there'll always be a stream of the race, unless obviously there's any volunteers from people that haven't qualified to host the live one. That would be brilliant, but if not, that's what we'll go with. In the more likely event that I don't qualify for the main race, I will obviously do a live stream, as we have done for the recent GT4 Championship, which I've got to say has been very well received. And adding this stream and commentary element really adds another dimension to the tier. So for the sprint race, we're probably giving away which category they're in, as they will both start in the GT Pro category. Lucky Egg and Hasnagel have offered between them and alternating possibly to host and do streams for the sprint races. As I say, it allows me the opportunity to compete where I can, and also just gives me a bit more time on Sundays to prepare for if I'm not racing for that feature race broadcast. So just frees up a bit more time for me. So again, on top of everything else they do, another massive thank you to them. But it does mean that every sprint race, every feature race will have a commentary stream to go alongside it. So as you know, the guys have been really testing hard some tyre and fuel settings for us, and we have come across what we think is the best combination, which will be a ×6 tyre wear and a ×2 fuel wear. It should bring all 3 tyre compounds into play, and that was the real aim, so to add as much strategy as possible. We had some great racing last year, possibly though it veered on too many pit stops, and sometimes disrupting some great racing action. So with that in mind, just to go and bring that in, we don't want to go back to the mega slow fuel days of when we first did testing, but we are going to reduce the refuel rate to 5 litres per minute from the current 15. So it will be slower, but it won't be down to 1 litre per minute that we first did when we started doing trials and practices for this. But again, we just need to it'll just add another dimension to drivers to depend on whether they're going to go for 1, 2 or 3 stop strategy. And we're not going to introduce any mandatory tyre choices. I want to leave that up to you guys. Outside of one driver who's joined us recently, Tiger, who we've decided that is so damn fast that to make the racing competitive, he will only be permitted to use the hard tyres in qualifying and the race. But outside of that, the rest of the field, as it stands anyway, is free to race. So on that front, we always want an open competition, but we do need to keep the racing as competitive as we can, as I discussed with Tiger earlier today, and he was more than understanding of that. He is in many tracks a top 10 in the world driver. So yeah, we're going to just give him still the opportunity to win and compete, but we don't want to, as I said to him, a Max Verstappen situation where we've got the same race winner every week and we know who's going to win before we arrive at the track. So this will just hopefully bring that field a little bit closer together. We've updated the rules of racing, which we'll issue later. I think it's very important to establish the type of racing we want. I know in the recent GT4 Championship there's some very good racing, but we maybe had some questionable moments. We want hard racing. We're all here because we love GT racing, we love touring cars. We don't necessarily want to get every single bit of contact to be a penalty. But there has to be a limit. And basically, I think it goes back to what we said before, racing others as you want to be raced. So it's hard, but it's fair. You're leaving just enough room, but as long as that room's being left, that is fine. And we want to see just fair competitive racing. We know in Gran Turismo there's no safety car, there's nothing that can bring you back into the race really once you have that incident. So we need to do all we can to avoid the incident, but keep the racing hard and fair at the time. So we've rewritten a few of the rules, which we'll issue out to you later. And the one thing we've done is reduced set things being a set penalty. So, for example, before we had, if you don't have damage, it's this time penalty. If you get damage, it's this. What we've done now is just make it a minor, a moderate, or severe offence, and there's no predetermining factors to that. So we'll base it off what we feel is a suitable time penalty. So that's regarding the and we have increased the penalties as well, from the 2 seconds and 2 licence points, 5 and 5 and 10 and 10. It's gone up now to a 5 and 5 as a minimum, 10 and 10 for moderate, and 15 and 15 as severe. But the licence point thresholds have remained the same. So at 15 licence points, the qualifying ban will kick in, at 25 a race ban, and at 35 a seat review. So we just want to just make sure the racing stays as we want it to be: hard, fair, and respectful at all times. And then last but not least, the calendar. That will also be reviewed pretty much as soon as we're wrapped up here. 16 race calendar, which will take us, I believe, up until September. 15 races where the feature race will be in and around an hour on a laps race, but again, you will see we will be finishing with a 3-hour finale again, as we did last season. As you may have seen the driver notices, one change we've made now is that while licence points will be wiped at the end of the season, race bans and Q bans will carry over to next. So, and particularly into the voluntary retirements. Now we know that a 3-hour race, if it doesn't go your way, it's a long old time. But that is one of ERL's founding philosophies from our owners, that you cannot voluntarily retire from a race. If you enter the race, if you've set aside the time to race, you need to complete that race. So that's an adjustment we made. We let the drivers off who retired in the 3-hour Le Mans last year, but the 3-hour finale this year, that there won't be that leniency, and you'll see soon which track has been chosen for that 3-hour race. I believe that covers absolutely everything that we need to go over for this season. I hope the drivers and anyone else involved with the Gran Turismo tier has found that useful and beneficial to talk through. But as always, I'm pretty much always available for questions, and as are the rest of the staff, who I couldn't do this without. And again, thank you to our owners for allowing us to do what we love doing. We'll get your calendar, your rules of racing, and your lobby settings out to you this evening. Remember to get your final car choices and confirmed entries over to me by Sunday, where we will then do our seasonal livery reveal, and then our first race will be on the 12th of May. And I, for one, as I'm sure all of you, are very much looking forward to it. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you again very soon.